How do you think it looks like?
Was like, this is the best alphabet I've ever seen. Like, I was like, this is the smartest thing anyone has
better
ever.
than the
It's
English
so smart.
alphabet.
It's so good. I'm obsessed with it. And so I think when I first looked at it, I was like, this is so amazing. Like,
How Korean sounds to you guys?
In my opinion, I think Korean sounds like a softer version of Chinese.
In my experience so far, like a lot more uplifting. More Koreans have been speaking while they're smiling.
Can you kind of try to mimic how Korean sounds to you?
우물 속에는 달이 밝고 구름이 흐르고
우물 속에는 달이 있고
Thank you guys so much for the interview. Can you briefly introduce yourself to the camera?
안녕하세요. I'm Mina.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요, I'm Reagan.
Okay.
Hi, and I'm Jai.
Okay. So you guys told me that you guys came here for like a performance. Can you like briefly tell me about the performance?
Yeah, so we did Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale,
Okay.
and we combined with Suncheon University, and they came over to Boston, and we performed it there, and then now we've come over here to South Korea to share the performance here.
So did it go well?
I would fain say that, yeah, it definitely did, for sure, yeah.
Right. So today I was asking like different foreigners on the street how Korean sounds to you guys. So I know that you guys don't really speak any Korean. So I think that's perfect. So like just in general. So I'm sure that you've heard like other Koreans speak Korean. So how do you think it sounds like? Just
Well, I think with our Chinese experience, in my opinion, I think Korean sounds like a softer, version of Chinese.
Okay.
So it still has like a lot of sounds and like tones, but it's like a gentler Chinese.
right.
Yes, I would say it sounds almost like a urban form of more urban form of Chinese a little bit.
Okay.
And if anything, I'd say a little less tonal for sure. Yeah.
So how do you think Korean sounds to you compared to Chinese?
I think in my experience so far, like a lot more uplifting.
Uplifting.
Yes, and just I feel like because in my experience, more Koreans have been speaking while they're smiling, which is not usually the case where I'm from, back in China. So I think that definitely changed a lot in terms of tones and just like sort of the sense that they came across. So
I mean, I would say Chinese is very energetic, though. It's maybe
we can do
Yeah,
sometimes.
It's very
Only when we choose to.
also asking other like foreigners to kind of mimic the sound of Korean. Can you do it?
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, can I say some of the words that I know?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Can we just like
Okay.
fake Korean?
Oh, fake Korean. I only know 4 words, and they're real Korean.
Okay.
I know. Okay,
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
tell you what I know. I know. 안녕하세요.
Yeah.
And then I know. Then I know fighting.
Okay.
And then I know 아니요.
Okay.
네.
네.
And what's the other? Don't tell me. 감사합니다. That's the other one I know.
Can you try it?
Now do something different.
Something different. Okay. I feel like it has a lot more like sounds a little bit like
Yeah.
and a lot more like ayo and ah. I hear a lot of or nida. I hear.
What would you say?
Opa.
So where did you learn that word from?
I think when I was in middle school, when K-pop was like
Right.
such a big thing in our class and everything.
Yeah.
So that's like
A popular word.
for sure, absolutely.
So I think Subin here, her name is Subin. So she's gonna tell you like a passage, a
Okay.
Korean passage. And maybe you guys can kind of try to mimic the sound.
Oh boy. All right.
Can you try to do that?
Love a challenge. Yeah. Let's do it.
그리고 한 사나이가 있습니다.
그리고 한 사나이가 있어라.
That was really good though.
Yeah.
하나만 더.
추억처럼 사나이가 있습니다.
족처럼 다 있습니다.
That's really good though. I think it's because like something to do like with your like acting, because you guys do a lot of impression of like other people.
That's what it is.
Yes.
We're very talented, so it makes sense.
Okay. So I'm sure that you guys speak English and she speaks Chinese, and there are.
We speak Chinese too.
Oh really?
一点点的。
对对.
Yeah, that's really impressive. But so there are so many other languages in the world. Like, do you think there are any like similar languages to Korean?
Sometimes I think Japanese is kind of similar because it's not
similar.
quite as. I feel like Chinese can be pretty harsh, so I
Right.
think it has some similarities.
Right.
And maybe a little, kind of similar to Vietnamese a little bit. I find a little.
Maybe, but I think Vietnamese is a little bit more guttural.
That is true. Yes.
So sound-wise, kind of sounds similar to Japanese. So I think there are like some words that are similar to Chinese, but I think the sound is kind of very different.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Like, I think every now and then I hear a few sounds that sounds like Chinese, but like most of the time I would agree.
Can you give me like an example of
Like ganbei.
Kanbei? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we say like ganbei.
Kanbei.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, we had this conversation once before about how the word "nay" sounds like the word "dui." So,
Dui?
I think that those are similar. Like "dui dui," "nay nay," like that.
Dui is Chinese, right? What's that? What's that mean?
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay.
So-
ne and dui.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Have you guys ever looked at Hangul, which is the written form of Korean?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you think it looks like, the written form of Korean?
Kind of similar to Japanese, just a little bit more linear, I would say.
Linear.
A little more linear.
Okay.
And a little less curved than some Japanese characters.
I think that's true.
Yeah. I think it has a lot more like circles.
And
There are a lot of circles.
Yeah. Oh, what do you say?
Well, yeah, because I think growing up, I know that like Korean characters are kind of written down in a way that's meant to mimic the mouth shape
Right.
that you're supposed to make when you pronounce
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So like that's how I know. And usually, kind of like what I said, like the circle-ish, like square-ish shape is how I identify it. So
Right.
yeah.
That's true. Okay, so you guys like all try to pronounce Korean. Do you think it's hard to pronounce, or do you think it's on the easier side?
I would say it's on the easier side. I mean, compared to the other languages I've tried to speak, definitely it's on the easier side.
Okay.
I think the only issue I had was that I'd forgotten what you'd asked me to say by the end of the sentence. I was like, oh, now I don't remember it. So
Okay.
that's my thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I agree with Nina.
Okay. so I know you guys like didn't try to learn Korean, but let's say like if you were to try to learn Korean, do you think the difficulty of learning it would be easy than other languages or like harder?
Do you mean to read it or do you mean to speak it?
Just like a whole thing.
Oh, the whole thing.
If you were to learn,
Okay. Because what I know is to learn Korean, like the writing of Korean, that's like one of the easiest languages to pick up. You can do it like within 2 days.
Right.
And I listened to like this one little story where I could learn how to read stuff.
Yeah.
But I think we could do it. I think we can do it.
Okay.
We could do it.
Because you guys learn Chinese.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think it would be easy for you?
I think it's the grammar that I'm worried about because it's just the different sentence structures. And I don't know like how loose it would be to like arrange different words in different orders in casual like talk,
Right.
which is the case with Chinese. So it just like I'm not particularly that much of a language person, so I think it will be like quite a bit of work for me.
Would you say the grammar of Chinese easier than Korean?
Yes.
Easier?
Yeah. Like I grew up speaking it, so I think I'm way too biased to tell.
Yeah.
And it's just, for me, it's just like colloquial Chinese is just so scrambled and so like all over the place sometimes in terms of sequencing and stuff that like I feel like it's very unstructured in that sense.
I think it's like so easy to pick up the grammar in Chinese. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, because it mimics the English. Oh, geez, I'm sorry. I'm just throwing my hands around. No, it mimics the English grammar. So in that sense, it's very there are other languages like Spanish, and when I do sign language, those ones you have to swap what you put like sort of the subject first or whatever. But
And French.
and French, right, when we do those ones, but.
So my last question would be, so out of all the languages in the world, just in your personal opinion, which language sounds the best to your ear?
Oh man, I really love Spanish.
Okay.
I love Spanish. Yeah.
Spanish. Why does it sound good to you?
I like the way it rolls. You know, all of those sort of rolling R's and the soft like waves of the sounds of the moo.
I would say that actually Chinese does hold a special place in my heart, I think, because of when I learned it back at school.
Right.
But I also like the sound of French to my ears, especially like
A lot
just
of
the
people say that, right?
yeah, the sound
Especially
of
like
French.
English speakers. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it just sounds very very happy, and I guess it just seems to make sense to the ear even if you don't understand it yet. Yes, yeah.
Which language?
I was gonna say French too, but I think there's definitely like a lot of Eurocentrism,
Right.
and just like kind of romanticization of like romantic languages,
Yeah.
like at play. Maybe a little bit of colonialism, to be honest. And I think part of it is also because I learned a bit of French way back when, and part of it is just like how little the mouth moves while one speaks French, and that tends to get equated with like a sense of like elegance and grace. So like the subtlety of it all, I think, for sure.
So thank you guys so much for your time, and we bought some like hand warmers to give out to different people. So yeah.
This is so nice. I love a good present.
Thank you guys.
날씨가
It's not much, but
It's wonderful.
right. So I know it's very cold outside
Yeah.
these days. So I hope you guys be careful with the weather.
We will. You know, it's actually very similar to Boston. So it's
That is true. Boston is really cold.
It is. It is.
Okay, so thank you guys, and I hope you guys all have a great trip here.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you guys so much for the interview. Can you briefly introduce yourself to the camera?
안녕하세요. I'm Abby.
Okay.
안녕하세요. I'm Dante.
Okay. And you guys are both from America as well, right?
That's right.
Boston?
Yes,
Yep.
same area. Yeah.
So we're asking all foreigners today about how Korean language sounds to you guys as a foreigner's perspective. So can you tell me a little about that?
Yeah. Well, both of us just started to try to learn it like
Oh, really?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
And I think the phonetics of the language is the hardest part, I think, because there's a lot of sounds that are just different in Korean than they are in English, like the p, b. Like sometimes it's p, sometimes it's b in Korean, but in America those are different letters.
Right.
And so that kind of thing, that's really hard to differentiate.
Right.
So I think that's what stood out at first to me.
Can you tell me?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely echoing that, the RL as well has been really tricky to like get my mouth around.
Really, yeah.
But it's been really fun, and I think that a lot of the letters that happen to be similar, like that again, like the PB, the RL, create a like lilt to it in the way that I hear it, which has been really fun to listen to, and I think there's a sort of musicality that's inherent in that, which I really enjoy.
Can you perhaps try to kind of mimic the sound of Korean just based on your hearing of Korean, like other Korean people?
Yeah, well, let me see if I can, because the r, la is really hard. So like, r, let's say like 정말 is like, that's hard for me to do.
Yeah. So maybe Subin here will give you a passage,
Okay.
like Korean passage.
We'll do our
and you
best.
Kind of try to imitate.
파란 바람이 불고 가을이 있습니다.
파란 바람이 불겠습니다.
I think
파란 바람이 불고 가을이 있습니다.
파란 바람이고 불겠습니다. 가을이 있습니다. Is that what? 가을이 있습니다.
I think it's good. But
It was just long enough that we
I'm forgetting the end.
could. Yeah.
so just like the previous group, I think you guys are pretty good at imitating different sounds.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we're all a theater group. And so we think about sounds a lot, I think. So that might help.
Yeah. Just one more.
Okay.
추억처럼 사나이가 있습니다.
추억처럼 사나이가 있습니다. Yeah. That was better. What are you saying? Can I ask what that means?
There's a guy that exists like the memory, so it's like a very poetic line. You know, it's supposed to mean.
추억처럼 사람 있습니까?
사나이가
사나이가 있습니까? Okay.
You guys speak Chinese too?
No.
Only them.
We both, yeah, just them. We both speak a little Spanish.
Okay.
We both really like learning languages. So I think for me, this is the first non-European language I've ever tried to learn.
Right. You said it's quite hard, right?
Yeah, well, it's just really different set of sounds. But I really wanted to be able to do that because I think I've been in my like safe zone with like French and Spanish. And so
How about like more of the technical parts? So let's say like the grammar and like other things. Do you think it's easier?
I actually find the grammar fun.
Yeah. No, I think.
I think it's.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not good at complex sentences.
Yeah.
But I think I really like the use of isoyo. I think it's really cool how you use that for a lot more things than you would in English.
Okay.
Like there is, I have, that kind of thing.
Yeah, a lot of like sentences. You know, it's the same thing with Japanese, but they end with like the same sound, right?
Yeah. I think actually that's something. So we were part of the same group that did a play with Sun Chungyang University, and the people from that university came to us in Boston, and so for a while that was the time that we didn't speak any Korean at all. We were just listening to them talk to each other. We can't understand anything, and I kept saying to Dante, I was like, I know, I keep recognizing the ending. They keep saying like, oh yo, like yo yo, imnida, like, and I was like, I know that they're saying something, but I can't figure out what it is.
I think in a way it kind of makes it sound quite poetic because you know it would seem to English speakers that it rhymes.
Right? Yeah.
You've heard of like other languages like Chinese and Japanese too, right? So you know the three languages, Korean, Japanese, Chinese. How do you think those three languages compare with each other? Like let's say like in terms of sound or something like that.
I mean, I think in terms of like specific words, definitely I know there are a lot of like loan words, especially from Chinese into Korean and like even the number system. So I think that like I know the barest hint of Chinese, and so when I was first learning a little bit of Korean, a lot of what I was learning was those initial words that like I had some recognition with. But I think in terms of sounds, I do think that Chinese feels more like end stopped in a lot of ways. Like there's more of a like staccato, sense to it, which can mean that the sentences feel as though they're turning down more so, whereas in Korean I feel like they lilt up. And then Japanese feels more steady to me.
Yeah. I was gonna say, just to add, I notice that the end of Korean sentences, especially because it's the same ending, similar, it can get dragged out for emphasis and stuff in a way that Japanese and Chinese don't. So like 저는 앞이에요, like the 예요, like you can drag that out.
Right.
That's something that stuck out to me in a way that Chinese and Japanese don't do. Yeah.
Do you think that makes it sound better, or do you think like you know? What do you think?
That's a good question. I like it now, I think. I had to get used to it because in English, that's not how you emphasize things, right? Like, I wouldn't be like, I'm Abby, like I wouldn't do that. Or I am, or whatever.
You're not used to it.
I'm not used to it, but like, and so one of the things I think when we're learning it, especially when we only have 2 weeks to really try to get any familiarity, all you want to do is feel comfortable in it, right?
Right.
And so then it's really cool to be like, okay, so that's how you should express yourself, and it's like a new way to express yourself. So now I really like it, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I've noticed for sure, like people will actually keep a much more monotone, like through the words that are like have the actual content of the sentence, and then deposit all of the emotion into those last syllables, which means that you get these much like more open emotional syllables because it's like yo, like these like big sounds can carry that excitement or sorrow or whatever it is in a way where like with English, like our voices go up and down all the time when we're talking in the middle of a sentence. But I find it's actually it's been helpful learning because it means people speak clearly and then do the emotional piece instead of this like wobbly, like all over the place.
That's interesting because there's a sentence or there's a phrase in Korean that says 한국말은 끝까지 들어봐야 한다. And you know what it means is that you have to, in order to understand Korean, you have to listen to it all the way to the end. You know, because like you said, I think a lot of Korean words or sentences, they have their emphasis in the back. But I think in English, it's more like you have like a bunch of words that are sticking out in a sentence. You know, they're important. So like all of the other sounds you kind of mush it out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's
You
true.
have like few words that are important that you. So that's why it like kind of.
It does that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, we really like rhythm. I don't know if you've noticed. We like melody and rhythm.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really good for like composing different songs and like poetry.
Well, yeah, I write songs a little.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I write songs for my band, and so I think about this a lot.
Yeah.
And it's always fun. I obviously write in English, but it's really fun to learn other languages and to see how other languages express themselves, and
Right.
you know.
We talked a lot about like the spoken form of Korean. Have you ever seen like the written form? So the Hangul, right? Because since you studied it, so how do you think it looks like?
I think it's cute. I think it's a really cute script. Yeah, it's like very round characters or letters, and they all sort of fit nicely together.
Yeah.
I am having a hard time with the stylized Hangul, like when on buildings and stuff, when it has font.
Yeah.
That's really hard.
Yeah, but it's like the same thing with English, right?
Yeah, I know
Because I know a lot of people these days, they don't understand cursive at all. Not like even like Americans too.
I don't understand cursive English.
learn it anymore.
We don't learn it anymore. I know, it's just computers.
Yeah, I mean, my first impression of it, because I learned it as like it's the shape that your mouth makes when you make the letters, was like this is the best alphabet I've ever seen. Like, I was like, this is the smartest thing
so
anyone
much
has
better
ever.
than the
it's
English
so smart.
alphabet.
It's so good. I'm obsessed with it. And so I think when I first looked at it, I was like, this is so amazing. Like this is such a good way to use like the written form to actually like mimic and inform the way that people can actually communicate with each other in a way that's really effective. And so I think like that intellectual like adoration overtook the like initial
I mean, I don't understand how people learn to pronounce English who haven't grown up with it.
Yeah.
Because there are all these alternate spellings that like I don't have to think about anymore.
Yeah.
But they're so weird.
So weird.
But in Korean you don't have that. It's like
Yeah.
really nice.
Because in English, like you have different words that you brought over from like France and like other languages. So it's really like random.
Yeah, it's quite random.
random.
That's how I would describe
mess.
English. Is it's quite random.
mess.
Big mess. Yeah.
nightmare of a language.
So thank you guys so much for your time. I hope you guys have a great trip here as well. 감사합니다. I have a gift for you guys too. So we brought these hand warmers.
That's so sweet. Great. We were honestly we were just happy to do this. We were really happy.
This was so much
like,
fun.
We really like this stuff.
It was really fun to speak to all of you guys. So thank you. So thank you so much for the interview. Can you briefly introduce yourself to the camera?
Sure, I'm Sophia.
And I'm Lila.
Okay, and you guys are both from America as well.
Yes.
Okay. So how long have you been here in Korea?
We've been here for about a week.
A week.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you've heard a lot of other Korean speakers speak Korean. Can you try to kind of describe what Korean sounds to you?
On the trains and buses, it's quite rhythmic, but with our peers, we did a theater project with. I feel like it's like piece by piece, kind of. I don't know. They're very quick speaking to each other.
I feel like there's like a swinging cadence to it almost, which is
Swing.
cool. Yeah, like a swing,
Okay.
like back. Yeah.
I think what you pointed out is correct in terms of what I learned. So like in Korean speakers, they usually speak out each word. And in English, it's more like they mush things together.
Totally.
Yeah.
So like there are like few important words that you have to speak out in English. So I think what you observed is quite correct. Can you try to like mimic the sound of Korean just based on the like fake Korean? Can you
Fake Korean?
Yeah.
All I know is like 감사합니다 or 고마워.
Wow.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
That's the extent of our language. We have peers who know more. Yeah.
So Subin here, her name is Subin. She's going to tell you guys a Korean passage, right? A passage that is Korean, and maybe you guys can try to mimic the sound. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
우물 속에는 달이 밝고 구름이 흐르고. One more time.
One more time.
우물 속에는 달이 밝고.
다리 바꿔.
우물 속에는 하리포 I know it's very off.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No? You guys didn't like try to learn Korean at all, right?
Not really. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, so we use a little bit of Korean in our dojang, but not a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I study Spanish. Yeah, wrong language.
So just based on your trying to kind of pronounce these things, do you think it's hard to pronounce or do you think it's quite easy?
Placement of like where the sounds are coming from is a little different.
Right.
So I think if you haven't tried to learn other languages before, it can be a little bit difficult. But I think for us, we do a lot of theater and vocal work. So a lot of our work is in like figuring out different places to use our voice. So I think in that way it's a little easier for us. But I think if you've never tried to do that before, it can be a little hard.
Right.
I think my biggest challenge in like I've been asked to like order dishes before with our friends who we've been working with, and the small like detailed sounds that are a little bit hidden in the back that I need to repeat multiple times in order to execute. Like
Right.
I need an example, but I don't know. Like there'll be like a zh or like a k in the back
Okay.
that I'm not used to in English. I'm used to English being like, I don't know, very quick and pronounced versus like a hidden kind of sound in the back.
So you say you learn Spanish as your, what do you know any other languages?
Spanish and Japanese.
Spanish. Okay. So you know a lot of languages, both of you. So based on your understanding of other languages, do you think there are any other language that sounds quite similar to Korean?
I don't think so. I think it sounds pretty unique. Like
Okay.
I feel like if I heard it, I'd be able to identify it as Korean.
I think that because I haven't spent enough time around the Korean language, I wouldn't be able to differentiate it as easily. I know I was here before my classmates, and I wasn't able to differentiate different tourists from other countries, like specifically from Japan.
So you said you learn Japanese.
Japanese.
So, a lot of people compare the three languages, Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. So how do they compare with each other in terms of how they sound like?
I think, at least when I'm hearing other people speak the languages, in Chinese I hear a lot more like tonal shifts. So there's like a lot of different tones in Chinese. With Japanese, it's a little more very phonetic in that it's like every syllable is just kind of like straight, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But I think with Korean, I don't know how to describe how it sounds. But I think the vocal placement is different for all of them. Like where you're placing emphasis in on the language is different.
I know I wasn't able to differentiate the Japanese and Korean. However, I've like practiced speaking a bit of Chinese, and I remember using like the front of my mouth a lot, so much that like it started to hurt a bit.
Chinese is quite hard to pronounce because, they have that intonation. But I think Korean is more lenient with the intonation. Like I think if you were to speak to Korean, like with your intonation, with your like American intonation, I would like still kind of understand what you're saying. So I think. So there's a hunger, that's the written form of Korean, right? Written form of Korean. Have you ever, there are a lot of signs that are in Korean. So how do you think it looks like to you?
Oh, I learned Hangul before I came to Korea.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think it's very like the letters are very straight. Like it's a lot of like straight lines I noticed. And then with the ng sound, the ng sound, it's like kind of bubbly. So it's like I think a little like more structured. Where I think with like hiragana, it's a little more flowy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I honestly think that having not studied like how to write in Korean, it would be very difficult for me to memorize each pattern. It seems very detailed to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Hand warmers.
Oh, that's so sweet so much.
It's not much, but
No, it's
Thank you so much.
Good luck with your video.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the interview. Can you briefly introduce yourself to the camera?
Yeah. I'm Roel. I'm 25. I'm here on vacation.
Okay. So how long have you been in Korea?
2 days?
2 days.
Yeah.
So you said before the interview that you didn't speak Korean at all, right?
No Korean.
Okay, but I'm sure that you've heard some Korean from your friend or like other people. Can you kind of try to mimic how Korean sounds to you? Just like fake Korean, can you try to speak it?
네. I don't know.
So something like, it always ends with like de.
Yeah, 네, 밥, 세요.
So my friend Subin here will kind of give you like a reference sample of a Korean passage. And maybe you can kind of try to follow after.
Okay, repeat what you
Right, exactly.
Okay.
산 모퉁이를 돌아 논가 외딴 우물을 홀로 찾아가선 가만히 들여다봅니다.
거기까지만.
One more time.
산 모퉁이를 돌아 논가 외딴 우물을 홀로 찾아가선 가만히 들여다봅니다.
사모, 다리, I can't.
Okay.
Maybe shorter.
Okay.
I can try.
그리고 한 사나이가 있습니다.
그리고 한 something like that.
Yeah, it's hard. So, to you, how does Korean language sound like, just in general?
I was just telling my friend today that I like how it sounds.
Okay.
I feel like the letters are pronounced differently than in
Right.
English.
Yeah.
So reading is like I can't just read it. I can't read it correctly. I'm not really sure how to
Right.
read the sounds right.
Right. So you said it kind of sounds nice. So by sounding nice, what do you exactly mean?
It sounds good to my ears.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it's like soft spoken, or do you think it's more like harsh on
Softer.
softer?
Yeah.
So now you have tried to pronounce the passage. Do you think it's kind of hard to pronounce it, or?
Yes, very for me. Yeah. I feel like my friend will say we're going to get this food,
Right.
and I'm like, I don't know what you just
Yeah.
said, but okay.
Yeah. So I know that you told me you've never tried to learn Korean, but do you think if you were to try to learn Korean, do you think the difficulty will be like on the harder side or like easier?
Yes. I'm trying to learn Japanese now, and I've
Yeah.
heard the grammar is similar. So the grammar in Japanese is hard, so I think it would be hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's like a data on which language is like the hardest to learn. I
Yeah.
think Korean for foreigners, for Americans at least, it was like the hardest, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it would be hard.
Yeah, because English and Korean are very different languages.
Yeah.
So do you know the written form of Korean, which is Hangul? Have you ever looked at one?
I never learned it, no.
Have you? But
I've seen it.
You've seen it, right?
Yes, I've seen it.
Okay, so can you kind of tell me like how it looks like to you as a foreigner?
It's pretty. It's like, I don't know. I like it. It's pretty.
Just pretty.
Yeah.
If you can compare Korean language to other languages that are out there, are there any like similar languages, do you think, to Korean?
I think it sounds very different from Japanese. Yeah, but there are similar words, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's a word that's like 약속, and that's pretty similar with Japanese. I think it's like
Yeah.
약속.
Yeah, it's pretty unique though. Yeah, I don't know. It's not like Spanish or English, definitely.
Japanese, Chinese, Korean. Those three languages, how do you think they compare with each other?
I think Chinese would be hardest for me to learn the accent correctly. Japanese accent seems easiest for me.
Okay.
And then Korean in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for the interview, and I hope you have a great trip here in Korea.
감사합니다.
감사합니다.